The skulls that shouldn't exist. Did you know ancient civilizations carved humanoid figures with stretched, elongated skulls, long before any culture on Earth ever practiced cranial shaping? And the strangest part? These carvings appear in places separated by oceans, civilizations that never met. Yet they drew the same figure, a figure that looks not entirely human. Our story begins in a remote desert valley, buried under centuries of wind and red sand. Archaeologists were expecting pottery, tools, maybe a few bones. Instead, they found a stone wall, but this wall wasn't for defense. It was a mural of beings, tall, narrow, with skulls extending backward like smooth stone crescents. Their faces were expressionless, their eyes carved too large, their hands pressed together as if in ritual or warning. At first, researchers assumed it was stylized art, just imagination. But then the dating came back. This carving was older, much older, than the earliest known practice of cranial deformation. The artists had carved what they saw, not what they invented, and something wasn't adding up. Months later, a team half a world away uncovered a nearly identical carving. Different continent, different language, different myths. But the same elongated skulls, the same ceremonial poses, the same perfect alignment of stone tablets pointing toward the sky. And the carvings shared one more detail. Each figure was surrounded by tiny marks that resembled teeth, like the beings were whispering, or chanting, or devouring something unseen. When both sites were compared in a lab, researchers noticed something chilling. The proportions of the skulls were identical, down to the millimeter. Cultures separated by oceans had carved the same impossible creature with surgical precision. Coincidence or memory? A quiet theory began spreading among scholars, the kind that ruins careers if spoken aloud. What if the carvings weren't artistic at all? What if they were records, accounts of encounters with a species that lived alongside early humans, but did not survive into written history? An offshoot, a cousin, a shadow of something ancient. But the theory didn't stay quiet for long, because soon after, another discovery forced everyone to reconsider. Deep in a mountain range, a ceremonial cave was uncovered. Inside were rows of carved skulls lining the walls, not real skulls, but stone replicas, each one elongated, each one polished, each one facing the entrance, like guardians waiting for a visitor who never returned. But in the center of the cave sat something far more disturbing, a single stone slab, depicting a birth ritual, a being with an elongated skull handing a small, swaddled infant to a human woman. Their hands touched, the same species, or two species meeting in silence, and above them, a symbol was carved, a circle split in half, interpreted by some as unity, but by others as domination. The final piece of the puzzle came from a forensic lab. A privately owned elongated skull, unprovenanced, was scanned. The results were impossible. No binding marks, no flattening, no compression. The bone was naturally shaped, smooth, rounded, symmetrical. This wasn't an altered human skull. It was engineered by genetics, not by culture. When the analysts delivered the results, they asked a quiet, trembling question. If this wasn't shaped by humans, what species did it belong to? The room fell silent. Science had no answer. History had no explanation. Only the carvings did. Across all sites, all continents, all civilizations, the last carving always showed the same scene. The elongated beings looking upward, hands raised, eyes wide, not in worship, but in fear, their skulls tilted back, as if listening to something descending from the sky. Something bright, something loud, something that made them vanish, leaving only stone echoes behind. Every culture recorded the arrival. None recorded the departure. Because maybe the beings didn't leave. Maybe they hid. Below us, behind us, inside caverns untouched by time. Waiting. So the next time you walk through an old museum and see a carving of a face too narrow, too tall, too strange, ask yourself, is this art or a memory carved in stone? Because some shapes do not come from imagination. Some shapes come from witnesses, and some witnesses never lived long enough to finish their story.